Welcome to Corporate Cafecito,
a Latin and business podcast where we share insights and strategies to help entrepreneurs and professionals thrive.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Corporate Cafecito. Yo soy Yeli Suarez Gas. Today with me, I have someone who I just met who is like, we met at a bar and we were just singing, jamming out. And I was like, oh my God, tell me about yourself because you just have so much energy and so much like love for life. And so this is Michelle Martinez and she's an IT nerd.
Yes, thank you. Hi. Yes, we met at we were in the crowd screaming out lyrics and our eyes locked, and it was a great energy match. So yes, happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your professional career.
Yes, so I've started out in IT world. So started out as an analyst doing implementations for financial companies, then moved into nonprofit, and now I work at a manufacturing company that makes the technology that makes the expiration dates and barcodes printed on all your beer bottles and everything printed on that is what my company does. And I sit in their IT department, but what I'm really excited about is the intersection of the technology, the communications, and leadership. So, and how all of that is really transforming right now with everything going on.
I don't know if I told you, I used to be in the beer world. I used to work for Miller Coors selling Miller Lite, so we probably used your product.
Yes. The company is called VideoJet, and we operate in 135 companies, and
Wow.
Literally everything in the grocery store that's got something printed on it, we touched it. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, and yes, the beer bottles. That's how I usually introduce myself out of bars is my company makes these expiration dates.
So I know you talk about like IT, and I know that that's like been your career, but now you're trying to make it more.
Yeah, that's right. Working in IT has been great. There's a fundamental philosophy on how to produce the best software, how to get teams to work collaboratively together. And that was actually what was more interesting to me than the technology. It was how are we actually making the technology? And then that ended up into like, how do our teams work together? Why is our HR strategy this way? How do we communicate? And it just came into these bigger questions that now intersect technology, communications, and HR really are the topics.
Well, I think like when you think about IT, we think about like our websites, our computers, the wiring, but you think about it in a way that's more like embedded into other functions.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because that when 20 years ago, technology was really, you needed deep subject matter expertise, you needed skilled training. And now we just do this thing called vibe coding where you can just speak into and say in plain language what you want a program to do. And so that deep expertise and knowledge is something I love and I enjoy. There's something really satisfying about being an expert and knowing the ins and outs of everything. But what I'm interested in is doing that at scale. And then also the people. All at the end of the day, it's the people on the teams that I'm working with and the people that are using the technology that really matter. And when you start thinking about people, that's when it stops becoming less about the deep expertise and how is what we're doing and building making lives better. The people that are building the software, are they enjoying what they're doing? Are we giving them places to grow and challenging them and not just burning them out?
That's been so hard. I think the burnout is so real. And it comes from in my perspective, so I want to hear yours too. Like to me it sounds like when I experience burnout, it's because there's a lack of like progression, right? Like I'm doing all this work, but I don't know why I'm doing it or where it's going to lead me. Is it taking me down the path I want to go to? And then also like, as we see more jobs eliminated, more work gets piled onto the people left behind, which also leads to burnout, right? So before I used to do this amount of work in 8 hours, now I'm doing double the work in 8 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours. Now I'm working weekends. Now I'm logging in back at night because I can't keep up. And it's that sense of, and something that, I think our culture has this like immense pride of like, we do good work And so if you feel like you're not producing or not doing good work, that will lead to our burnout too.
Yes, yes. It's even that it's happened on my team. We are have this really good engine to take in work,
Mhm.
do the project, and spit it out, and it's like that feels so satisfying to be really efficient. But then you have to stop and ask, like, well, what are we actually producing, and is this providing value, and are people using it? And this is where the human piece comes in. And I had one-on-ones with all of my team. I meet with them every month, a one-on-one, and there was one month where everyone said they were getting burnout. And that
Mm.
it's usually just one here and there, but everyone was saying that. And that's where it's like, oh, you need to pause the
Mhm.
systems and be human. And in our 1 hour meeting, the first 30 minutes, I just blocked off the time. It was like, we're just going to complain. We are just going to sit here for 30 minutes and we're not going to repeat this. We're not going to record this. And no one's going to be held accountable for anything they say. But we're just going to complain. And it actually only took 20 minutes because at the end, after everyone got it all out, everyone heard what everyone else was saying and they all were feeling the same burnout. That was okay. We got it out, being
Yeah,
heard,
we're
being
good.
witnessed.
Yeah.
And then the last 40 minutes was what is all the ideas we have about what we can do to make change. What are all the things we would change right now? And then we separated that into things we had control over and things we didn't have control over. And we looked at the things we had control over, and that's what we changed. And that's how we got our capacity down. That was how I started a conversation with our business partners on, hey, this is what we actually are capable of,
Mhm.
even though we've been producing this, and was able to actually lower the capacity and make us focus on more strategic projects. So it's there is burnout, and I think it takes a good leader and someone who's listening to do something about that. Otherwise, it can feel very alienating. Yeah.
I think that that is part of, your empath heart and your ability to connect with people. I know you talk about like bringing HR into some of these functions because when we think about organizations, right, we always think of HR as like the heart.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you want to bring HR into like every function.
Yes, yes, and that was actually the biggest pivot of my career was my company offers leadership and communication training, and they asked the IT department. They came around and said, "Does anyone in IT want to be trained or want to be certified
Mhm.
in one of these skills?" And I was like, "Yes!" And so for the last 4 years, I've been teaching communication training, which is usually an HR function,
Mhm.
and that has been the biggest benefit to my career is having that skill where in a technical team and a technical sprint retro, we are actually complaining and building psychological safety and talking about problems outside of our team that are out of our control and it makes people feel empowered when they don't just they feel stuck in their
Mhm.
one little role and they can talk about all those things. And I think that this is what we were talking about before
Yeah.
we recorded is soft skills, they get this bad rap, this label of being nice to have, and it is the only way people are going to be able to survive and be competitive in the future is those soft skills, relationship building, psychological safety. It's how we're going to attract the best talent and keep the best people.
I've found that it's also very cyclical, right? So, think about like when computers rolled out. Then it was like you have to be really good at computers, and then the computer people, they were maybe not the most social, but they had that deep expertise. And then we're like, okay, well now you need to train all of us. So then you had to
Yeah.
build the expertise to and the confidence and the communication skills, and then communication was like the biggest push, right? And
Yeah.
then we went into like, okay, now you have to have deep expertise, but only within your function, right? So if you were sales, you were sales, you were marketing, you did marketing, finance, and there was this sometimes lack of cross functional.
It's a siloed. It's
Yeah,
very siloed. Yeah. Yes.
so then that became a skill that people were like, I work on cross functional
Yes.
teams and I do this. And they were like, okay, now we check this. And so, I think right now it's, we had IT was almost, it seemed daunting or like scary for those of us who don't know IT, who still turn on and turn off their computer when it's not working right. And now with AI and just the accessibility of it, now it's going back to like, okay, you may have that skill set, but can you communicate it?
Yes. Yes. And I think communication has always been an undervalued skill, but you are right. It's not going away. Cross-functional teams, projects that span multiple departments that might span multiple months, and teams that's the new normal now. And this thing called collaboration fatigue is a real thing where not only are
Oh,
you
I haven't heard that yet.
yeah, it's where not only where you are working on these extremely complex, multifaceted projects, but you have email on your laptop, on your phone, on your iPad. You have text and Outlook things coming on your watch, and that you are CC'd on all of these emails.
And you're like, I
You
don't
are
want to know
invited to
this.
all these teams meet. Like it's just it's collaboration overload, fatigue. Along with that, all of those complex projects. It's why the human factor is more important than ever, and why how people work together needs to be rethought. Because you're right, the old way of kind of siloed, finance is going to work on their projects, IT is going to work on their project, HR, it doesn't work anymore, and it leads to the burnout, and it leads to people spinning their wheels inside each of their little teams and not actually moving the company and the vision forward. Um, it's yeah, and if I can say,
Yeah.
Microsoft just did a study last year on this because they have access to like all of our emails and all of our Outlooks. And in March 2020, they did a study and saw that the way teams were working shifted from what we're talking about collaboration, cross functional, to little groups, like 7 or 9 people. Like we're all going to hunker down and get through this together. And it's changing. Last year, they did another study and see that, okay, we're moving away from this hunker down COVID mentality, and we're now going back to this like cross-functional, spread out part. But our technology and our systems and our processes, HR, communications, IT, are outdated. And another thing I shared with you was, if you look at your partner today, would you date this person today as they are? And if that answer is a no, that relationship's over.
He would have had to work a lot harder.
Yeah, there would have been a lot of
kidding.
work. Well, in our companies, if we looked at our company today fresh, would we have chosen this HR strategy, this communication strategy, this IT strategy, and would we set up our teams the way they were? No,
Right.
none of us would.
Because a lot of it
no.
is inherited, right? So it's like that's how the team is structured, and you get hired into this team, and this is your function, and this is where we sit. And on Wednesdays we wear pink. It's like, but you're
Yeah.
right. It's like you come in, and then the hard part is if you come in as a new employee, you assimilate because you don't want to like you don't want to rock the boat. Like you're coming into a new job, so
Yeah.
you may not feel like you can change it.
Yeah.
So then you get in there and then you get into that rut of like, this is how we do it. Like, no, you have to go to this person first. And instead of doing these things that might be, okay. I was always accused of using my network versus the process. And it was always because I always liked the people aspect, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, they're right there. I'm going to go talk to them.
Yep.
They're like, fill out the form. And I'd be like, can I get one of these? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, they're right there. And I'd be like, okay, thanks. And that was easier for me because I like to see people, touch people, say hello to people. And so I think that we need to bring back that sense of one team, and two, like camaraderie, which to your point, right, if people are going back from like the hunker down group and expanding their group, those soft skills are what's going to differentiate them.
Then what you're saying and experiencing is what we all feel like. If I could just get the 5 people I needed in the room and we could get this problem solved in 5 minutes, and instead we have 5 meetings across all of these different avenues. That piece about collaboration is what companies need to get right, and why the strategy of combining the HR, like IT and communications, has to happen, because there are ways that collaboration in person, like what you're saying, does work. And there are people, and especially at Workday and different psychological, the Society for Industrial Psychology, and basically how do we form businesses, how do we form structures and companies, have found that the network is actually how people work. And you need to be very clear about, if we need in-person collaboration, it needs to be under these conditions. And then there's solo work that needs to happen, and which is why people are finding you really only get value for 2 to 3 days in the office. And after that, you kind of have diminishing returns because you do need the time in person building that network, but then you do need the time alone to go do your own work.
But I see so many people's calendars, and it's like, where do you eat? Like, where do you do the work? Like, you're in all these meetings.
Yep.
Like, when do you have that time to be like, oh, okay, these are all the follow ups I need to do?
I know we need to break up with our old meeting schedules. It's not, like I said, the collaboration fatigue has made us better at doing better projects, but it makes us do more and more of it. It's just like getting good at checking your email. Just makes you get more email. It doesn't actually make you more efficient. And getting better at doing more projects just makes us do more projects. Are we doing the right ones? Are we in the right meetings? And that's why it is really difficult for someone to change this for themselves, and it needs to happen at a structural leadership level.
So, what do you recommend?
That's
That's why she's here, guys.
Well, what I recommend, my mantra is we have everything we need. And it's part of the reason I love vintage clothing and used clothing is we actually have all of the clothes we need on the planet for the next 6 generations.
Oh, I believe that.
It's already here. And we already have what we need on our teams. We already have the people with the good ideas. We need the leadership and the communication to kind of open up the strategy. And we need leaders that are willing to do things that they haven't tried before, because no one has been here before. That's the other secret. No one knows what we're doing. Like, there's some good research out there. There's some good studies, but the practice of it, even with AI right now, we're all just learning. We're all just trying to figure it out. And I will say, from a technology standpoint, new technology adoption, this is normal. You do let kind of little people and little, not little people, but you do let like an AI. It's actually a well thought out strategy to let the company kind of what happens in pockets. Like, this pocket over here comes up with this use case, and this pocket comes up with this use case, and you need to let that madness kind of happen at first. And now that it's happened for about a year, now you need to organize it and govern it. And that's going to take HR, IT, and communications all working together. And some companies that have a continuous improvement or a leadership department, they also need to bring that in, their change management structure. So no one knows what to do, but we already have everyone in the company who knows what we will do together. We have the people we need to solve it. So I think we just need to have those conversations and be
let people
open.
flex. Like, not flex in like the negative flex, but like, if they want to try something else, like we used to do that all the time when I was in corporate, like shadowing or going and learning from another team. Or I remember when I worked at Frito, they made you run a route for a little bit so that you knew what it was like to be out there. And I feel like we've lost a little bit of that cross training, which to me was so valuable, because then I was like, well, if it's going to go on a truck, then it has to look like this, because I was on that truck and I knew what it was like. And so I think we need to also be like, just because someone is in IT or finance or sales doesn't mean that's all they can contribute.
You're right. Yeah. And we need to see the end to end. We call it in my company, and like going to Gemba, like going to where the work is. That is what is going to matter. The thing that AI can't replace, the human piece of it, is where we need to be invested. Yeah. And just, I guess for me, it was the cross platform opportunities of working with our DE&I groups, working in IT, doing the leadership and communication training, having all of those avenues available to me, and having a manager and a team where I had the capacity and I had the time to go explore those things. Yeah.
So how do we fight cross collaboration fatigue?
How do we fight it? How do we fight it?
How do we cure?
Well, first we acknowledge it. It's like you said, you see people's calendars, acknowledge it. I think the transparency is key. People feel like they're complaining, they feel like they're being lazy, but actually it's real wisdom. It is real wisdom that when we feel it, we get told, oh, that's a lazy feeling, or that's a feeling, a shame feeling. But if you are feeling this wrong, it's real.
Yeah.
And it needs to be heard. It needs to be voiced. One practical thing I've been doing is meeting buffers. So every meeting I have in Outlook, I buffer it 30 minutes on either side. So I block off 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after every meeting. And that's when I get the work done. That's when I write the follow up. That's when I conclude the thoughts. That's when I maybe heat up my lunch or give myself that buffer time. The transitions, you are always on. You will always have access to the internet. People will find you. Projects
Yeah.
will find you. Don't worry about that. You're not going to like not be found. People will find you. But giving yourself that time and space to transition between things, that is where you make the best connections. That's how our brains actually work in the bored time, in the downtime. They make the connections. And we need to normalize that you need the downtime. Our brains need the time to make those connections and transitions. You're not abnormal. You're not lazy. You are doing the work, and you will be better at working with that space. So
Oh,
yeah.
I love the downtime because that is when you think. That is when you're able to like process everything. Because when you're in the meeting, you're like processing what's going on here and taking notes and trying to think about like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? What are they supposed to do with this? And I always think like, that's why I love that they invented like shower notepads.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, and even like I'll wake up at night and I'll start writing myself an email of like, oh, this was a good idea, or like blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Because if not, I'm like, I'm gonna go back to sleep and I'm gonna lose all these thoughts that came from like me just having like this moment of quiet and peace.
Yes, and this is something I feel really strongly about is as knowledge workers. So you're a knowledge worker, someone who is mostly using their knowledge and their brain.
Mm.
And you look at a knowledge worker, and then I look at a physical laborer who is given ergonomic safety belts and hours of the days they're allowed to work and not work, and boundaries with what's safe with their body and what's not. And then I look at a knowledge worker who was like, your company has access to your brain 24/7.
Yeah.
It is wrong. It is wrong, and it needs to. It's not how we're actually capable. It's why we move into anxiety and depression and the continuous thoughts that we can't get out of, is because our brains are not meant to always be on and working. There does need to be a break, and I think that will be something that I don't know how we're going to see that change, but there does. You are always working because your brain doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Just because you're not sitting in a meeting and talking, yeah, you are always working. So,
Well,
yeah.
all right. You found ways. One, we learned collaboration fatigue. We learned the intersectionality of different. I was not
HR,
confident that I could say that word. Um, HR, IT, communications, and also just the importance of understanding cross collaboration fatigue because it's real, and we're in a world where we're not going to collaborate less. We just need to figure out how to collaborate better and protect our mindset, our heart, our burnout, our brains, so that we can enjoy the parts that are not work related.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you'll be seeing a lot of Michelle, so stay tuned. And thank you for joining us on
Thank
Corporate
you. I
Cafecito.
enjoyed it.
All right. Nos vemos.